Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. On a chilly September evening in 2016, the small town of Maplewood settled into an eerie stillness. Nestled among the rolling hills of rural Ohio, its streets were lined with quaint houses that held generations of memories within their wooden frame. Yet this night would mark the first ripple in an ever-expanding lake of fear and uncertainty that would soon engulf its residents. As twilight deepened, the flickering glow of autumn candles emerged in living rooms, casting shadows that danced across the wall. Within one of these homes, the Fitzgerald family gathered for dinner, the aroma of roast chicken mingling with laughter and chatter. Amidst this warm tableau, 14-year-old Lily Fitzgerald was busy tapping on her smartphone, oblivious to the ominous change that loomed on the horizon. Just beyond the reach of family warmth lay the town's borders, where the trees whispered secrets and darkened alleys often held untold tales. Earlier that day, Lily had heard whispers of a stranger spotted at the town square, his sullen face watching the children with an unsettling intensity. In a place where everyone knew one another, an outsider could stir unease like a sudden gust of wind. As night fell, the Fitzgeralds would have no idea their lives were about to be irrevocably altered. An innocuous knock would echo through their hallway, carrying with it a chain reaction of events that would grip the entire community. Shortly, the search for a missing girl would begin, leading investigators down a path they could never have anticipated. Darkness was descending upon Maplewood, and with it came a mystery that would haunt its streets for years to come. The victim. Lily Fitzgerald was an ordinary girl in the eyes of Maplewood, but to those who knew her intimately, she was anything but. Dark brown hair fell in waves around her shoulders, framing a face sprinkled with freckles that glowed with buoyancy. Her effervescent smile could brighten the gloomiest of autumn afternoons. An honor student with a passion for art, she often escaped into imaginary worlds, sketching until the sun dipped behind the horizon. Those closest to her saw her as the heart of their household. She had an uncanny knack for storytelling, keeping her little brother Max entranced with tales of adventure. Yet, as she curled up on the living room floor, perusing a freshly bought sketchbook, a deeper turbulence flickered beneath her vibrant exterior. The changes in her life, the shift from elementary school to junior high, the increasing pressure to excel, the uncertainty of burgeoning friendship had begun to weigh heavily on her young shoulder. It's important to note that Maplewood, while picturesque, was not devoid of shadows. The recent economic downturn had left an indelible scar across the town, leading to boredom and desperation among its youth. Subtle tension simmered among its inhabitants, igniting small fires of discontent. Just days before her disappearance, Lily had confided in her best friend, Tessa. She spoke of feeling watched, a sense of unease lurking just beyond the familiar town borders. As the clock struck 8 that evening, the Fitzgerald house grew quiet. Lily had excused herself to finish her drawings and send a few messages to friends, a routine ritual that often stretched late into the night. Little did they know, her need for connection would lead her into the depths of danger, drawing her closer to a web of sinister intentions that contrasted sharply with the innocence of her daily life. The last message she sent would leave a ghostly imprint on the hearts of those who loved her. The crime scene. The sun hung low in the sky as dawn broke over Maplewood, casting a golden hue that belied the turmoil beneath. It wasn't until Mrs. Fitzgerald wandered puzzlingly down the hallway, the enticing aroma of breakfast lacking its usual companion, that concern began to settle into her bones. As she turned toward Lily's room, a knot formed in her stomach. It was always a source of comfort to find her daughter tucked in or perched at her desk, immersed in art. This morning, however, the room was empty. The bed was neatly made, and the window was silently ajar, letting in a soft breeze that seemed to murmur lost whispers. Panic took over as she called out Lily's name. Her voice echoed by the walls, only to be met with silence. Mrs. Fitzgerald's heart raced as she dashed through Maplewood. The warmth of the early autumn air turned icy in her veins. Before long, the worry had summoned the community. Friends, family, and neighbors gathered, exchanging worried glances and hushed voices. A faint rustle of anxiety grew into a crescendo as the local sheriff, Sheriff Dawson, arrived, his expression gray. The search began almost immediately, with local volunteers fanning out in every direction, searching through parks, wooded areas, and stretches of road. A chilling reality settled in. Lily was missing. As minutes turned into hours, the clock grew heavier, each tick marking the distance between her and home. Just before noon, a local landscaper stumbled upon a small clearing just off a hiking path frequented by neighborhood children. There, he found a crumpled sketchbook, recognizable by the bound leather cover, adorned with Lily's initials. A jolt to his heart. A sense of dread cascaded as he inspected the scene more closely. The ground was disturbed, indicating a struggle, and scattered nearby were Lily's art supplies, strewn like the remnants of a violent confrontation. As screams pierced the air, echoing through the labyrinth of trees, the once peaceful neighborhood suddenly dissolved into chaos. With every searchlight beam flickering through the foliage, it became clear. An innocent life had been shattered, and a dark investigation was about to unfold. The early investigation. The late afternoon sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows over the town of Maplewood. The reality of Lily's disappearance weighed heavily on the shoulders of the gathered community, the air thick with apprehension. Children and parents huddled together while local authorities set up a command center at Maplewood High School. Sheriff Dawson, a seasoned investigator retired from a busy city department, took charge, his expression revealing the weight of the situation. The early investigation centered on gathering information. Sheriff Dawson, flanked by officers, began interviewing those closest to Lily. Tessa, her best friend, sat shaking in a chair, eyes wide with fear. He recounted the last time she saw Lily, on that seemingly typical afternoon. They had planned a trip to the ice rink that weekend, a ritual for them as the weather turned cool. But Tessa couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. Lily said she felt like she was being watched. She stammered, her voice trembling as she spoke. The sheriff scribbled notes, his gaze intent yet reassuring. He understood that the innocent observations of a teenager might lead to vital clues in this case. Meanwhile, others were questioned, including nearby residents. The name of Henry Carter, a man with a history of erratic behavior and a recent brush with law enforcement, came up frequently. Living alone at the edge of town, he was known for his peculiar and unsettling demeanor. Though he had never been charged with anything, whispers of his presence near the school and local parks had raised eyebrows. Citing the need for thoroughness, Sheriff Dawson sent officers to patrol Henry's property, looking for any sign of Lily or anything unusual that might connect him to her disappearance. As officers approached his home, the atmosphere turned tense. A flash of uncertainty flickered in the air. They were heading into the unknown, uncertain of what lay ahead in this unfolding nightmare. With each hour that passed, the town's sense of urgency grew. Each clock ticking towards a difficult resolution. The early investigation had promising leads, but as darkness enveloped Maplewood, the reality settled. Time pressed heavily against them, and with it, a haunting race against an unseen predator. The dead ends. As night fell on Maplewood, the air was thick with a palpable tension. Known for its ceaseless routines, the town now felt alien, haunted by whispered fears and unanswered questions. Inside the command center set up at Maplewood High, officers worked tirelessly, heads bent over numerous reports, each page a testament to their sense of urgency. But as hopes waned, so did the leads. Sheriff Dawson and his team had pursued every possible avenue. They conducted door-to-door inquiries and combed through surveillance footage from local businesses, searching for any trace of Lily. Yet, with more hours ticking by, the grim reality began to set in. Each lead, whether it pointed to a witness who thought they had seen a flash of brown hair, or someone recalling a white van parked for too long by the park, seemed to spiral into a dead end. In the investigation of Henry Carter, officers found little more than a disheveled yard and scattered remnants of a once vibrant life. Much to Sheriff Dawson's frustration, Henry had an alibi for the night of Lily's disappearance. He was at a local bar, albeit slightly intoxicated, and had been seen by several patrons until closing solid evidence contrary to their instinctual suspicion. Yet, amidst the frustration, whispers of discontent stirred in the community. Some residents suddenly turned to superstition, insinuating the presence of a curse or darker forces at work, igniting a fear that spread like wildfire. The local news reported on the case with elevated urgency, enhancing the sense of impending dread that wrapped tightly around Maplewood's population. Days dragged on with frightening slowness, each hour marked by deepening shadows and bleak ambivalence. Lily's family was consumed by worry, and the community's resolve began to thin under the weight of uncertainty. Efforts to keep spirits up were challenged by every dead end encountered. Every sharpened lead dulled instead, simmering into anger and sorrow. In the quiet corners of Maplewood, no one dared speak the truth. Many felt they feared they were running out of time. Desperation clawed at the edges of hope, and as the autumn leaves continued to fall, the suffocating burden of silence grew heavier, filling every nook and cranny with unresolved anguish. A break in the case. 3 days after Lily's disappearance, the sense of doom hanging over Maplewood tightened its grip, like a vice around the town's heart. The community was caught in a tempest of despair, holding tightly to every shred of hope that remained. But the night would soon offer an unexpected glimmer in the shadows, illuminating the darkness in ways no one could foresee. As Sheriff Dawson sat in the quiet command center, reviewing case reports while fighting back exhaustion, the radio crackled to life with urgency. An officer had intercepted a call from a woman, Jennifer Collins, who lived on the outskirts of town. She reported a suspicious figure in her neighborhood, someone lurking near the edge of the woods behind her home for the past few days, watching her children play. Jennifer's description was chillingly similar to descriptions shared by other residents stalled. Dark-haired, cloaked in a worn jacket. She'd noticed the figure again that very afternoon, standing just beyond the trees, seemingly waiting for something. Sheriff Dawson's heart raced as he relayed the information to his deputies, adrenaline rapidly coursing through their veins. By the time they arrived at Jennifer's house, twilight had given way to darkness. Officers spread out around the tree line, flashlights flickering through the branches like fireflies. Tension filled the air as they scoured the underbrush. Suddenly, A rustle erupted from the foliage. Within moments, they spotted the figure of a man, disoriented and sweaty, attempting to move deeper into the woods. He was apprehended quickly, fear flickering in his eyes as they identified him as Michael Reed, a local drifter with a history of petty crimes. While detained, whispers of his erratic behavior and scrapped attempts to form connections with children sparked intrigue among the officers. As they searched his belongings, a sense of dread mingled with anticipation. Sprawled amidst the personal effects was a distinctive purple bracelet, missing from Lily's wrist, morbid trophy that sent ripples of unease through the investigatory chief. The revelation ignited a flurry of activity. Dawson knew they had stumbled upon a potential key to Lily's fate, a chance to uncover deeper truths locked away in the shadows. With dawn approaching, the officers quickly brought Reed in for questioning, tension crackling like a live wire as they prepared to uncover what had transpired. The promise of finally breaking through the oppressive weight of uncertainty hung tantalizingly in the air. As the flickering flame of hope began to burn anew in the hearts of Maplewood's citizens. The suspect. The interrogation room, stark and sterile, felt oppressive under the flickering fluorescent lights. Michael Reed sat hunched at the metal table, his hands fidgeting nervously as Sheriff Dawson and Officer Jenkins entered. The thin veneer of bravado that had held him up moments before now crumbled, revealing a man overwhelmed by circumstances he could no longer control. "Where were you on September 20th, Mike?" Sheriff Dawson's voice was steady, laced with an underlying urgency that demanded an answer. Reed shifted uneasily, glancing down at the table as if searching for a way out. The sheriff leaned closer, his sharp gaze unwavering. The purple bracelet became a talisman of sorts. Its vibrant hue stood out like a beacon in the dim room, casting an aura of dread around them. Stecken was just hanging out. "Man," Reed stammered, his voice cracking under the pressure. "I didn't see no girl." But Dawson sensed the lie slithering past Reed's lips. The sheriff pushed a folded photograph of Lily across the table, her bright smile hauntingly vibrant against the starkness of the room. "You know who she is. We've got witnesses who spotted you near the park where she disappeared. What do you have to say for yourself?" The room fell silent, tension thickening the air as Reed's expression flickered between fear and defiance. "Just because I was there doesn't mean I did anything." He didn't seem to possess the conviction of innocence. Instead, desperation clawed at his words as if pleading for understanding. But Sheriff Dawson had heard it all before half-hearted excuses spun from a web of regret and self-pity. After an hour of back-and-forth questioning, Reed finally succumbed to the mounting pressure. "Two saw her at the park. She was drawing, I swear. I just wanted to talk to her, all right?" As he spoke, his voice trembled, revealing a hint of something deeper and unsettling curiosity, perhaps, or a twisted longing for connection. With every word, Dawson's suspicions deepened. The sheriff pressed further, imposing a weight of reason that left no room for evasion. "You were seen watching her, Michael." "Explain that." Reed's facade crumbled. He leaned back in his chair, running his fingers through his hair while his eyes darted away. "I didn't mean to frighten her. I never wanted the protest fell away dissolving into an agonizing silence, one that reverberated with unspeakable horror. The heart of the matter coiled tightly around them, as if every unspoken word filled the room with a chilling acknowledgement. Michael Reed held pieces of a puzzle that might unravel the mystery of Lily's fate. And as dawn broke outside the window, reshaping the darkness into light, Sheriff Dawson braced himself for the answers that could either bring relief or plunge them all deeper into despair. The trial. The trial of Michael Reed commanded national attention, a focal point in the media that cast Maplewood into the limelight in ways the community had never anticipated. The small town, once a whisper of a blip on the map, now stood at the epicenter of a harrowing legal battle that brought heartbreak to the forefront. As the courtroom filled with anxious faces, the Fitzgerald family occupied a solitary row. Mrs. Fitzgerald clutched her daughter's favorite sketchbook to her chest, the pages worn from familiarity, each sketch a reminder of Lily's spirit vibrancy of a life cut short. Sheriff Dawson sat in the front row. A palpable sense of determination held vigil in his features. Opening statements revealed the prosecution's aim: to paint Reed as an opportunist, someone who had preyed upon a vulnerable girl. The evidence portrayed was disconcerting. The purple bracelet, recovered from Reed's belongings, became a powerful symbol of Lily's fate, a thread connecting the horror of that day to the suspect being questioned. Yet, Reed's defense lawyer countered with fervor, arguing dubious connections and painting their client as a troubled man who sought no malice, merely connection, a misfit in desperate search of companionship. Days turned into weeks, every session punctuated by emotional testimonies from family and friends. Tessa recounted the night Lily had expressed unease about feeling watched, reminding everyone in the courtroom of the girl behind the tragedy. Mrs. Fitzgerald wept as she spoke of her daughter's vibrant life, her love for art, and the emptiness left behind. Each heart-wrenching recount cemented a collective anger towards Reed. The tide shifted dramatically when a surprise witness appeared: Jennifer Collins, the woman who had reported Reed for suspicious behavior in her neighborhood. Her testimony provided critical context that suggested a pattern of unsettling behavior, positioning him not merely as a derelict, but as a possible predator. The courtroom seemed to hold its breath as Dawson listened intently, the pieces of a chilling puzzle aligning. As the trial neared its end, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Closing arguments echoed through the room, each side fighting for justice against the backdrop of a life lost too soon. Reed sat at the defendant's table, his stoic mask cracking under the weight of his circumstances, revealing the spirals of hopelessness he fought to suppress. When the jury retreated to deliberate, time stretched agonizingly thin, each tick of the clock resonating in stark contrast to the silence that now enveloped the courtroom. The verdict would soon determine not only the fate of Michael Reed, but also the very essence of closure the Fitzgerald family desperately sought. As the courtroom doors swung open once more, a hush descended, pregnant with the promise of answers, each heart sensing that the truth would finally confront the darkness. The aftermath. When the verdict was read, a collective gasp resonated within the courtroom. Michael Reed was found guilty of kidnapping and attempted murder, charges that echoed the gravity of the horrors he had inflicted. A wave of emotion cascaded through the Fitzgerald family, intertwining elation and sorrow. They had sought justice for Lily, but the shadow of her absence loomed larger than any verdict could dispel. As the gavel struck, sealing Reed's fate, Mrs. Fitzgerald clutched the sketchbook tighter, tears cascading down her cheeks. The nearness of closure felt bittersweet, while the immense burden of grief could not simply evaporate with a simple decree from a judge. The family hoped that justice might foster healing. Sheriff Dawson, too, felt the weight lift, yet a hollow pit remained in his stomach, the knowledge that lives had been irrevocably altered, overshadowing any sense of accomplishment. In the following weeks, the quiet streets of Maplewood began to murmur with the tentative recovery of a community battered by tragedy. Candlelight vigils were held in Lily's memory, drawing neighbors together to share stories of the girl who had lit up their town with her passion and creativity. Art supplies were donated to local schools in her honor, a small yet poignant tribute that transformed her essence into something hopeful, a way of ensuring her light continued to inspire. But there were also dark corners to the aftermath. Conversations about safety, security, and the presence of danger loomed large. Parents kept their children closer, a watchful eye ever alert, fearing shadows and whispers that had once been part of their idyllic lives. Rumors swirled around town about the motivations behind Reed's actions, discussions mingling with whispers of lingering anxiety. Sheriff Dawson remained vigilant, working alongside local law enforcement to launch community safety programs aimed at educating families on how to recognize and respond to danger. He felt a responsibility to not only deliver justice, but also safeguard what remained of Maplewood's innocent spirit. Months passed, marked by grief and renewed resolve to embrace life amid loss. All of Maplewood's residents, creator Lily Fitzgerald would never walk through their town again. Yet her memory, her love for art, her laughter reverberating in quiet corners became a fuel driving the efforts to forge a safer world. With each day, Sheriff Dawson reminded himself that even amid darkness, hope perseveres. It transformed the narrative from one of sorrow into one filled with the reminder of a vibrant young life, a transformative legacy that would echo through the community far beyond the tragedy, forever altering the fabric of their closely knit town. Reflection. As seasons changed, the tendrils of grief began to intertwine with the fabric of daily life in Maplewood. The stark reminder of us, love, forever altered, settled into the hearts of its citizens like a persistent ache. Sheriff Dawson often found himself reflecting on the events that had unfolded the emotions each person had experienced. The shared love for a girl who had brought warmth to an entire community. In the months that followed Lily's case, moments taken for granted transformed into focal points of appreciation. Families took picnics in the park once again, laughter mixing with the chorus of rustling leaves. Yet, they did so with a newfound awareness. Connections deepened, and conversations included heartfelt discussions about safety and vigilance. A stark juxtaposition to brighter days of yesterday. On quiet evenings, Dawson reminisced about Lily's spark, her passion for life and art. He knew he could never restore what had been lost, but he was determined to ensure her spirit endured. Each smile he saw on children's faces as they picked up paintbrushes or colored pencils became a testament to her legacy, a beacon of hope in the darkness that had once threatened to consume them all. In the face of adversity, the community's solidarity grew stronger, a powerful force that would serve as a bulwark against despair. The journey to heal would take time, but together they forged a path illuminated by a shared commitment to honor Lily Fitzgerald's memory and protect the innocence of children, weaving a safety net with steadfast resolve.